There's a big push right now to get people to eat fake meat. And by fake meat, I mean meat that never came from an animal in the first place. Whether it's calling some plant slop that's formed into patties or into crumbles meat, or whether it's to cultivate animals, the flesh of animals, the cells of animals in a laboratory setting, and then try to pass that off as a natural meat product, to the point where regulators in Europe and the United States and other places where the influence of regulators can be bought with nice donations to their functioning. That's how it works in the United States and in other places. These regulators have said, oh, it's perfectly safe to eat it, even though there's some research to suggest that, in fact, it's actually not safe. And you should proceed at the very least with caution before eating any cultivated meat. But the pushback is growing, and this won't surprise you in the slightest to learn that Italy, with its long history of being one of the food capitals of the world, one of the culinary capitals, that food plays a huge part of their culture, to the point where it's part of the national and cultural identity of Italy. And to the Italian diaspora anywhere in the world, food is a part of how they connect to their culture, their heritage, and to their homeland. Italy isn't having any of it, despite the fact that there is a fair amount of the Italian population who, for whatever reason, believes whatever the TV tells them and want to actually try cultivated meat. So, headline from GFI Europe. Italian ban on cultivated meat would, quote, shut down economic and environmental potential. GFI Europe responds as Italy considers a law that would ban the production and marketing of cultivated meat. Yes, the Italian government is presently right now looking at a total ban on the production and marketing of cultivated meat. But the only way you would be able to get it is if you bought it in France or some other neighboring country and brought it to Italy yourself. That'd be the only way you could get it. And maybe they'll even ban that kind of importing. Who knows? It's worth keeping an eye on. You seeing this is definitely part of sort of a populist revolt against essentially bureaucrats trying to tell people how to live every aspect of their lives. If you know anything about Italian politics right now, they've taken definitely a swing in the direction away from the European Union and the larger European project. And, well, the technocrats themselves are upset about this because the various governments and NGOs of Europe want to get fake meat on the market to replace the real thing. As you're about to hear in this excerpt that I have for you from the article, they really go into telling you about the thermometer problem and how animal agriculture is the big problem, and this is how you get people protein in a way that will actually fight the big problem going on that we're told is such an existential problem that everybody must give up all their freedoms and stop eating food meant for human beings and give more power to people who really don't care at all about you or human flourishing. And that's the only way to do it, and is animal agriculture, which at best represents something like 5% of carbon. It really does. And ruminant animals can be raised in a way that doesn't contribute to the big problem that they think is going on. In fact, all animal production can be done in that way. If they wanted to go after industrial agriculture and actually restore regenerative practices, that would be a different story entirely. But that's not what they're talking about. They want to grow things in a lab. That's going to be energy intensive. If you think about it for more than 2 seconds, you realize they're going to be creating more problems, not actually solving any if there are problems to begin with anyway. But let's take a look at their article here. So from the GFI Europe article, which is definitely a very big establishment kind of outlet in Europe when it comes to repeating all their talking points, here's how they characterize it. Quote, the Italian Council of Ministers is today discussing a draft law put forward by Giorgia Meloni's government, which would ban the production and placing on the market of so-called, quote, synthetic foods in Italy. The draft law, which singles out, quote, meat which is the result of a cell cultivation process, would reportedly introduce a fine of 10,000 to 60,000 euros for any violation of the proposed ban. Alice Ravenscroft, head of policy at the Good Food Institute Europe, said, quote, the passing of such a law would shut down the economic potential of this nascent field in Italy, holding back scientific progress and thermometer mitigation efforts and limiting consumer choice. It could prevent Italian scientists from undertaking crucial work and ban Italian cultivated meat startups from existing at all. Italy would be left behind as the rest of Europe and the world progresses towards a more sustainable and secure food system. And the 54% of Italians who already want to try cultivated meat would be banned from doing so. The EU already has a robust regulatory process in place for confirming the safety of new foods like cultivated meat, and regulators in the United States and Singapore have already found it to be safe. The government should let Italians make up their own minds about what they want to eat instead of stifling consumer freedom." End quote. There's something deeply ironic about people who promote this broader problem talking about consumer freedom, since they're also the same ones who don't want people to generally have air conditioners or private motor vehicles, or at least internal combustion engine vehicles, and who promote 15-minute cities and all the rest. Don't give me your freedom talk when you're talking about this stuff when you have a track record of not being in favor of actual consumer freedom. Give me a break. Now, elsewhere it's reported that and they didn't mention it here, but elsewhere it's been reported that the Italian government has put the ban on serving bugs in Italian restaurants or in Italian food in general. Same Italian government is doing this. Now, why are they doing that? Because it's not food fit for human consumption. Would you want to go to Italy and get some traditional Italian dish made with cricket paste? Probably not. Why would you want to then go and get, roll those dice and see if it's safe to eat some sort of traditional Italian dish made with lab cultivated meat? Probably wouldn't want to. Not if you actually understand that a proper human diet doesn't include artificial things and doesn't include unnecessary fake ingredients, and we're going to count cloned meat in a lab in that equation. There's no reason to eat that stuff when ranchers can make your meat for you. There's really no reason, none whatsoever, especially when we actually have an understanding of the science behind carbon and the role animals and animal agriculture plays in all of this. This is just gaslighting. This is an organization that, for whatever reason, and I bet you if you took advantage of European laws about transparency and money in the political process, you'd find out that organizations like this one are funded by food companies and probably funded by certain big NGOs that talk about being an economic forum for the entire world. I'll bet you that if you did that research, you'd find out that they are connected to them, and that what this is about is money and access and pushing the program, the capital T, capital P, the program, which is to, by the end of the decade, to get people to eat significantly less real meat and instead be subjected to the processed food system. Because if you're subjected to the processed food system, you don't have real freedom. Not anymore. Regardless of whatever else you might think of the sort of attached political issues here, the political leanings of Giorgia Meloni and her party, whatever else you might think about it, I would hope that at least everyone can agree that people should be able to free to eat what they actually want to eat and have access to real food, not Frankenfoods made in a lab at the behest of some bureaucrat somewhere who thinks they know how to run your life for you better than you do. I would hope we can agree on that. Now, are you surprised by the story? Are you surprised to see the Italian government stepping up and actually doing the right thing? Let me know in the comments, please. Like and subscribe if you haven't. It does help, as does sharing this on social media. That helps a lot too. I'm Anthony Stine of The Practical Carnivore. Thanks for tuning in today.